What is going on, everybody? Scott Hogan coming at you. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a different video. There's been a really good series on YouTube from the Foreplay Sports guys, Foreplay Pod guys, who do like the golf Barstool stuff. And they're doing a little series called Breaking 90. So I wanted to do a little breakdown how I would do this with my students. So let's get into it. All right, so one of the things that I love to do is I actually, as much as I love working with launch monitors and all that stuff, is I love working with people on their strategy around the golf course. That's one of the things that I do the most. Most people have really bad strategy when it comes to the golf course. They have this vision of doing things like they see on TV, and in reality, if they're trying to do, whatever their scoring goal is, they're just taking on too much risk and not allowing for enough bad things to happen. And so that's something I've always liked to do. And so what I wanted to do is go through this entire round that his name's Trent from Barstool plays. He plays it with Frankie Borelli. Really a good entertaining video series you should go check out. But I'm going to go through and talk about how I would coach this player to get around the golf course, just like I would. And so first things we start with is, I use a scorecard that I have made, that I use, that has all of my information that I like to see people think about. Because the first thing you have to do is you have to have a strategy. So as we go through this round, we want to have a strategy of what's it going to take. So Trent in this series is trying to break 90 for the first time. And so we have to come up with something that says, hey, this is what it takes to break 90, because when you're not getting there, you have to know what part of your game, and you have to be confident that that's what you got to work on to get better. But then when you actually go work on it, you have to know that you're getting better, and you have to know when you play your next round, hey, that improved, and that's going to help me play better, and that's what I stay on to keep shooting these scores. So we got to come up with a strategy first. And so the typical thing that people think about is they think about greens in regulation, they think about, putting, stuff like that, and that's all good, but we have to adapt those things to what our score goal is. So if you're trying to break 90, you do not have to hit a green in reg. You just don't. So I think too many people are trying to hit the green and they put pressure on themselves, and we just don't need to do that. So for today's round, what I'm going to have Trent be focused on, what we're going to look for is, instead of saying, hey, you have to hit the green in regulation, I want a 100-yard circle around the green. We are going to expand his green to 100 yards. We're also going to look at any time he's inside of 100 yards, how many times he's able to get the ball down in 3 shots. Okay. We'll also then break it down even further. We're going to look at his putts and see how many total putts he's had, and then we're going to kind of get an idea of where that first putt distance was from, seeing if he has some long ones. We're also just going to look at if he's missing any short putts, okay? So I'm actually going to make a little change here for short putts, okay? And so we're just going to make a little note if he misses any short putts as he goes. But you can watch the whole thing if you want to just watch a couple of holes, get the gist of everything. That's probably going to work too, but let's get into it. All right, so here we go. They're playing at a course called Great River here. Let's get it over. They're starting actually on the back 9, playing a par 3. So when you're playing a par 3, what that's going to say is, okay, hey, green and reg would be 1 shot. So remember, ours is 100 yards. That's our green and reg. So let's get it moving in. I'll try to skip forward as much as I can. Okay, so here's his tee shot here, and it's a 174-yard hole. So in theory, he's only got to hit this 75 yards or so. And so we'll see what he gets as we go through, okay? Okay, so here he is. He's hitting his second shot on the hole, so he is not hitting in the hazard. So he was successful in getting that ball over the hazard. He made things over. So what we can do is I actually will make 2 cards here, because the way I typically do this is I actually changed the game a little bit, but just for simplicity's sake, we'll mark down one. It took him one shot to hit the green and red. Again, get it within 100 yards. So the way I have people do this is actually turn this into checks and X's. Get a check mark or you don't. Your goal is to get as many check marks as you can. So here we go. We'll keep going. So he chips it up, gets it onto the green. So that's his first shot now within 100 yards. Okay. He does have a little bit of distance on this one, which I know is something that he's been struggling with, trying to judge these putts. Here we go. Putt coming down. Actually, not a bad look at it. Not a bad look from that range, we should say. Okay. So we have a missed short putt there. So it, putts inside of 4 feet. And we're looking at, I believe he's going to make this one. That's going to give him 4 putts total. 5, so he's making a 6 on that hole. So the way I would do this on the bottom part is, was he successful getting down in 3 from inside of 100 yards? No. And then we just do a little breakdown. Okay, we just do that breakdown basically, just so you can start seeing why aren't you getting the ball in the hole from inside of 100 yards? That's what we're looking at. Okay, so when I do this, let's get that eraser out. Let's see. So he's got an X there. He has an X there. And then again, that score is 6. All right, so they're playing this par 4 now, 380 yards. He just hit his tee shot. So again, when it's a par 4, the green and reg is going to be 2 shots. Okay, so let's see if we can move it ahead. Okay, so here he goes. And this is going to be a little bit of a theme as we go through this today, as you saw that shot he just hit. But after 2 shots, he's taking him 2 shots. He's up there in the green side bunker. We are good to go. We're good to go. So let's see. So he's successful on the long game. Here's our chip. So he's got a chip. Now he's not on the green, but he's still using a putter. So I would call that okay. But, it's still going to be something he has to look at and say, all right, hey, maybe I can get that a little closer. But again, he got it down in 3. Okay, so he did that. We'll give him 2 putts there. He had only the 1, and so that's a bogey 5, which if we're trying to break 90, that's good. So we get to put checks on every part of that hole. So we would call that a very, very successful hole, because as you're trying to break 90, your goal is start putting bogeys on the board. Okay, so we're going to this par 4 next. All right, so he's hit this shot. Now this hole is very, very tough. It's it looks like at 250 you're actually not able to really get up there. That's kind of your max. But what he needs to be thinking about is, I actually like the way he played this hole so far. He hit a drive, tried to get it up there as far as he could. Didn't work out. I do think he could have been a little bit more aggressive trying to get that layup up there, but that's okay. You have to get it in play. So he's not going to be successful on our first check mark, right? He's going to have too many strokes getting inside. It's going to take him actually 3. So that gives him the X. But he hasn't taken himself out of anything yet. He's just saying, all right, hey, I've got to, what's my strategy now? It's kind of like when we hit balls in trouble going for the green anyway. It's like, hey, how do I just get this ball, somewhere up there where I have a chance? So you're only costing yourself, in theory, 1 stroke, but you can save yourself one stroke. It's just somewhere else you'll get it back. That's your thought is if you keep playing smart enough, good things are going to happen. Okay, so he gets through it. Gets through it. He actually does a great job getting down in 3, even though that bunker shot was, a little bit iffy, but there we go. He's got a pretty solid start, except for that first hole where around the green he kind of started throwing up on himself a little bit. So we're still okay. We're still okay as we're going. All right, so here we go. We've got a par 5. So again, our green and reg is going to be, all right, hey, we've got 3 shots. Now, there's one thing that I would point out right now as we've started the round. You can see we are seeing that ball tailing to the right, okay? And that's what we need to be paying attention to. As you're playing golf, you have to start understanding where your ball is going and how is that going to change your aim. How is that going to change where you're going to be playing? So if I'm Trent right now, for example, on this hole, it looks like it's traveling up in this direction. So if I'm Trent, I'm aiming his shot right inside this left tree, okay? And I'm letting it fade back. I wouldn't want to aim at the trees in case you do hit it straight, but I do want to get it where I'm going to allow for some of this fade. And I do think that's something that would give him some issues. And so there you go. You can see he actually did it on this one. And that's something he's going to want to take into all of his shots as he's going forward. The other thing you got to think about is, hey, do you necessarily need to hit hybrid or anything? If you like the club, then it's good. Now, here's where he gets to hit his 3rd shot here. So, again, if he's just thinking, so if we're looking at this green, he's got to be thinking, if I was him, I would be aiming at this left part of the green, assuming they're kind of coming in from this direction. But anywhere up in here is good. And so what we would be talking about is it's not about hitting the green. It's about making solid contact, because all of this would be within our 100-yard green. It's even less than that. So you would be in really good shape if you could get that ball anywhere around here where you have a chance to then get down in 3. Now what I typically see when we do that is we're starting to lower your expectations. People say, well, hey, that's not a good shot at all if you hit it not on the green. What we're doing is we're trying to lower your expectations. We're trying to get it where you're more comfortable. We're trying to make you feel like, hey, this isn't like I have to do this or I have to do that. And you can see he actually hits a pretty good shot here, gets it up basically on the green, which that's going to be good. So he's actually under. He got 3 shots and he got it on the green, okay? So that's obviously going to do it, right? So we give him that check, okay? Now we go to the down in 3 part, okay? We go to the down in 3 part, and so he hit his first putt. We got to get past all the weird Frankie stuff. And there he goes. He's going to get that 2 putts, right? So he does actually get it down in 3. He actually only takes 2. He actually made a long putt. I would still say I'm actually going to put a plus here in the short putt distance, meaning that he made it from outside of 4 feet. So he actually, we could still know that his lag putting wasn't very good. And then we start putting checks across the board. And so you can see, like, that's when you're going to start. Obviously, we're going to need some pars in the round, but we're not necessarily trying for pars as much as we are trying to get that ball into our goals. And then when we have good things happen, then we have to capitalize on that. So, for example, on that hole, like if he would have made bogey, that would have been bad because he was putting. Essentially, he hit the green in under his green in regulation. So when you do those types of things, that's when you have to take advantage of all that stuff. Okay? And so now we move on to this par 4. He hit a good tee shot. Now he has a hybrid that he doesn't hit very well. What you're going to see is, as we go through it, he ends up having 60 yards in. Okay, so he still did his goals. He still did the goals. He still did things the way it needs to be. Again, I think people get so worked up like, hey, you just tried to hit a hybrid from, 160, 170, 180 plus. That's very, very difficult to do. You're not going to hit the green. Nobody's going to hit the green that much. So you have to think about what your real target is as you go, and that's going to make you better. But now, all right, so here we go. Now, even though we had something, not good happen off that hybrid, but it's still okay. It falls within the strategy of what's going on. So now he hits his putt, gets the first one up there, and then we'll actually take a look when he gets to the next one. You can see it's not very close. I mean, this is a good 6-7 feet. The speed wasn't bad, but his reading wasn't great. He works with John Tillery. The camera angles aren't great on some of these, but I do notice he tends to get his eyes on the outside of the ball. That would start affecting how you see putts. He doesn't look very comfortable when he's putting. It looks too robotic, so it's hard to have feel. Not a lot of great putters. Kevin Kisners, who works with John Tillery, he putts a lot like this. This reminds me of his setup. He would be kind of one of the exceptions, I would suppose, about putting. But yeah, it's pretty uncomfortable looking. It's not what I usually see people that putt well look like. They look a lot more comfortable as they're going into their putts. But anyway, we go through. He hits his putt. He actually gets it to go. So you can see we get it. We've got good things happening as long as we're making putts. Again, he's kind of had to make some long putts to start this off, which, hey, we can do that, but that's not going to continue forever. You're just not going to make these length putts all the time. So he is going to have to get that ball closer to the hole as he goes. All right, par 3 coming up. Par 3, so it's 155. So another one. The flag is on the right. Let's go back to his aim here as he's going through. That aim needs to be at this person on the left, okay? He needs to be trying to start the ball there. Again, if he hits it straight, and also the way this green is shaped, the club he needs to be choosing, because if you try to get back to this flag and the way this pin is, okay, you're going to go long into the creek or the river. So here's what he needs to do. He needs to be taking one less, or a club that's hitting this front part of the green, and then he needs to hit the shot at this guy and let it work its way over, because every shot is curved to the right so far, and we have to understand our targets. He ends up getting it up there anyway. I think he pushes the boundary just a little bit, but actually, it turns out it's into a really good spot. Now that you get a better look at the green, you can see being short isn't the end of the world as long as you don't hit it super fat or anything like that. So again, it takes him one shot, doing really good on his greens and reg, hitting it inside that 100-yard zone. He hits actually a really good chip shot there, like that. And he hits a good putt. Okay, so take his 4, get on out. Now, on that hole, you could say, hey, maybe we're going to chip it a little closer, something like that. That is part of why we start looking at, what is your first putt distance. So, a lot of times when we're trying to figure out if we're chipping good, we write down the first putt distance because, if you're not hitting greens, then you should have shorter putts than if you are hitting greens because your chipping needs to be better. But he's doing good so far. He's kind of getting through, other than that start where that short game kind of gets him. So we go to next hole, 16. He's going with a par 4. Sounds pretty solid. And they're actually playing a hybrid set of tees, which I would recommend for him, playing the whites. So here we go, moving his way through. Let's see. Hits an iron up there. Hits an iron up there. We're going to take a look. It sounds like it's okay. All right, so here we are. He's up there. He's by the green. He has a nice little pitch. Actually hits a really good one. That's a really, really good one. And so now this is where it's like, all right, hey, that's about 4 feet from the hole. This is where we start saying, all right, hey, you've got to make these putts. Okay, so this is the putt. Now, let's take a look here as he goes through. First off, he's playing quite a bit of break on this putt. He hits it actually right where he's aiming. So that's a good putt. The speed was too hard, but that's one thing you can't do. He does make the comebacker, so that's good. But that's one where you feel like it gets away from him a little bit, where it's like, all right, hey, the par could be there because of that putting, right? So I would say, all right, hey, we need to make that 4-footer. He did good though, got up there. He kind of did everything he needed to, but that's one where he could have got it back on his strategy just from that standpoint. So when we go through it, I'm actually going to put an X in there for the short putts because he missed one there. Okay. So we got another par 5 here. So this one's going to be a little longer. So his goal again is going to be get it down there. 3 shots. Let's see what we got. All right, so he's got his hybrid out. Pretty good play there. I like it going up the left side, even though it looks like there's some room to the right. Maybe he took it a little to the left side, but I think he did pretty good there. Like that strategy. Now he gets out here. He's got 150 left for his third shot. He's actually got 120 left for his third shot. So he's really worried about his, he doesn't have the right club. He had to walk it out there. That's that's always brutal when that happens. But he's got a lot of uncertainty going on right now as he goes. But this is a shot here as we look at it. This is one where I would say this was a mistake that we have going on here. So as I'm looking at him hitting this shot, this is where it's important to understand as he goes through this, he's actually hitting too far. This is where he's not aiming far enough left. He's got bunkers on the right. He's got really no trouble up there to the left. A little bit of tall grass, but he could play from that. And he is not a very good bunker player. Okay, bunkers are one of the parts that get him. So for me, this is where I would be aiming off of the green. I would be aiming off of the green here. Like aim it right over here because that's going to let that ball do what it normally does, but it gives him a lot more room for this ball to work its way towards the target with his natural shape. You don't have to aim on the green all the time. And so this ball starts right of the flag, and then it's going to fall into that bunker, where I think, again, if he had a better target and understanding of his shape of the shot, he's going to get that ball into probably the green. It'd actually be a really good shot. The other thing is he took more club when he did that. When you take more club, you're going to tend to hit it a little bit right because the shaft's not getting a chance to flex and stuff. So here we go. He did actually do the goal, though. He did get it, but he put himself in a tough spot where he's not even good. Now he's all worried about the shot and everything that went on. Now things are starting to get a little bit spiraled. Mentally and everything. Actually hits a really good putt there, so we're going to get 2 putts out of it. He did do good. Got his one short one, I believe. Nope, actually, jinxed him. So this is where rounds go. This is where you get rounds to go. Okay? Those are the things that really kill you. There's 2 to 3 shots possibly that got away, and it all came from inside of just understanding where to aim for a longer shot, and then from there it's everything that goes on with the short game. So nothing good inside of that 100-yard zone there. Okay, so go to 18. This is actually a tough tee shot for him because of how that was angled. That's actually a tough one. But ends up being okay. He kind of had those trees in the way. I would probably play the hole differently where he didn't have to play such a big slice. Take less club. Again, you only have to cover 277 yards, so he could hit like 2 hybrids and do that. And he hits his hybrid pretty good. So now he's kind of in trouble. Now, he's got up here. He's not technically he's inside of it, but he's kind of in a bad spot as he goes. But we can give it to him. We can go back to this one. I wanted to talk about this with Frankie. He's been talking about how he's going to shoot under par for the first time ever. If he makes a 4. So first off, don't do that. You got to keep yourself focused on what you're trying to do. But he goes ahead and he chips it off of this lie, and this thing looks bare. And if you know anything about Frankie, he can't chip. So why the putter to this tight little lie? He's just got to go with the putter. I think you would see a lot of pros even putt that and take it from there. So just something to think about as you're going through it. Now Trent gets up here. We're going to call it now that he's got inside the zone. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But now we got a chip that rolls off the green. Chips rolling off the green. Now we are putting back up. That's actually a good putt. I like that putt a lot. Let's see. And actually, there we go. Very good. Very good there. So we'll give it to him on those. And he actually gets that double out of there. So that's actually a good hole on the inside part there. You can see notice how, as we go through the front, okay, so he's missing his goal by 5, okay? Again, kind of around 45, 44 is what he's trying to do. If we go through that, right, if we go through that front 9, okay, so I like to, again, go with the checks and X method, but if we do some math, so as we go through his round here, as I start looking at it, okay, so they talk a lot about his putting, and they talk about his lag putting and his speed control. And it's not great. I will give him that. He can work generally on putting. But the one thing he's got to work on is he has to actually, if he was to make and not miss any putt inside of 4 feet, if he was to work on those, he'd actually be at 18 putts for the front. That's actually not too bad, or the back 9, whatever this is. That's not too bad. So I would look at that and say, all right, hey, how can we do a little bit better there? Now, the other thing is we have to look at where he's putting from, right? His putting is from, our goal should be not to 3-putt. Part of not 3-putting is how far away are your first putts. If you're putting from 50 feet all the time or 40 feet, and you're giving yourself really crazy putts, you're going to 3-putt a lot. So for me, I actually think his chipping and short game needs to improve. I think that's something that is going to be the big focal point as we go through, because I think if he can get the chips closer, he's going to have more 1-putts. I also think if he's a better chipper and he has more confidence in it, he's going to not be afraid to aim a little bit more conservatively and try to get that ball up anywhere near the green, because he'll know that's a strength of what he's doing. So it all comes down to the mindset of what we're trying to do, as opposed to just trying to putting pressure on ourselves, trying to push the envelope. I think too many people think, oh, I've got to have that shot that I can hit the ball on the green from 150, 160. It's not really that. It's hey, as long as you're getting it up there, if you work on these shots, I would even take him inside of 50 yards. Anything inside of 50 yards. If he went and practiced that twice a week, and he worked on, can he hit a high shot, a low shot, and then a medium shot? Just work on 3 different ball positions. He is going to see his scores go down tremendously. So we'll keep going. Get it onto the front 9 now. If they're back. So we're joining it in action. You can see he's got a pitch shot up here on the green. Again, you can see that pitch from really close. He achieved everything. He got it up here, but after the pitch shot, he's got a really, really tough putt, and he does pretty good with that. He does pretty good with it from that range with that much break. That's not that bad of a putt. Okay, so I do like that. But it leaves him that distance that it's like 5, 6, 7 feet where you're just not going to make that many of them. And when you're putting from 50 feet, it does get difficult to hit putts within 3, 4 feet. So I think he's got to get that ball up closer I know he could improve a little bit on that speed, but I think if you improve your touch with your short game anyway, you're probably improving your touch with your putting as well. So if we only had to work on one thing, that would be what I would look at with it. Okay, so again, 3 putts. This is where I would look at it and say, all right, you've got he was like 50 feet. We'll call it 40, give him the benefit of the doubt. So this is where I'd start changing things and saying, all right, hey, we want to know how far away you're putting from as you go. Okay. All right, par 3 here. So as I'm looking at it, it looks like there's not too much trouble left. He has a bunker to the right, so I would be aiming him 185 yards. He is hitting an iron, so it's not going to curve as much. But I'd be aiming him right at the left edge of the green, as far left edge of the green as we could go. And looks like he actually hits it right there. And then that ball's working right, actually working right at the flag. That's a great shot right there. That's a really good shot. We'll take that. So now that he's got that ball on the green, inside of 100, he got his inside 100 goal. But the fact that it got on the green, now this is where it's go time. We need to be making one of our pars that we're looking at in a round, right? Especially when we're about, 20 feet or so. That was a good shot in there by Frankie. When we're about 20 feet or so, we really got to make par here. We really got to. This is where, you need to lag this one up close. From 20 feet, we always kind of give it like the 10% rule. He needs to be getting this one inside of about 2 feet or so to the hole. So we'll take a look. Not bad. Not bad. See, and this is where he's starting to get frustrated. This is where I think he runs into some issues where he's worried about things that are getting him. And that's not that bad of a putt. It's like 3 feet away, 3, maybe 4 feet. Again, it's all in that short putting range. And this is where, again, I'm not looking at his long putt. It was a little outside that 2 feet, but that is a short putting thing. He needs to get on a green, and he's getting worked up. I think it doesn't help that he got worked up before he hit it, where it's like, hey, that was really bad. It's really bad. It's like, well, if you have a good strategy and understand strategy, you realize, okay, I'm actually in a good spot. I'm going to be fine. I just need to do what I'm supposed to do, which is I'm supposed to be able to make short putts. Now, I think what you see is it's going to start building on him. He's worried about, he got worried about the long putt, which is what he shouldn't have been worried about. He should be mad about missing the short one. I would say that, but that's not what we're looking at. Again, you're just getting a little bit worked up as you go for apparently, what I think is no reason.
I can't rip a 3 with 250 up the hill. Yeah, Trent. Get up. All right, dude. That was a good swing. All right, we're not taking that all day. No, we're taking that all day. I think you're gonna like that. Fucking love that.
So playing this par 5 here now, you can see he's got his 3 shots was right there on this par 5, so that's very good. He's done well there. He's actually got the ball in a good spot. He's got a putt for par. Hey, there we go. He gets it up there. Again, you get yourself on there. You get reasonable putts where you're just trying to get the ball close. Get to a distance where it's reasonable that you can get the ball very, very close. Then they start falling for you, and good things will happen. Okay, so he actually got that down. He got that down in 2, which was awesome. Only had 1 to putt from about, we'll call it 15 feet. So we get to throw down a lot of checks. Got a lot of check marks on that last one. All right, par 4, crazy one. I like the play. He's got water up there on the right. He's going to stay short of it. Again, I would aim it down the left side even with that hybrid, but it looked like, he hits that hybrid pretty good. So I think he's okay. He's actually in a good spot. Now, this is one of the holes they were talking about. It's very difficult. So this is where you have your 100-yard green. This is where the flag is over on the right side. 100-yard green, there's water over here. So that 100-yard green is anywhere over here. Okay? Anywhere over here. That's within 100 yards of the hole. So I'm aiming it at this hillside. I am not letting him play towards the green. He's got to hit this ball over here. And so you can see he actually does a great job playing it out. He might even have been a little bit too aggressive, but, that's why you aim in this area. So that way, if you do push it a little bit, it ends up right here. And now it's time to go to work. If he has a great short game, if he works on that chipping, you could get this up and down. But at the worst, again, what you get is you have a pretty simple bogey. I think that's a fantastic shot. Very, very good. Again, giving himself it's a reasonable putt where he has, we expect this one to be very, very, very close after it's done. So when you start thinking about trying to get it really close, then the ball will sometimes start going in. Okay? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to have a chance to stop the ball really close, which means we have to have shorter putts after our chips. Okay? So, again, we'll call this, it looked like about 15, maybe 20 feet. We'll call it 20. Always a little tough on the on those, and that's honestly for what they said is the hardest hole on the course. They said that at the beginning of the video. When you walk out of there with a 5, you're feeling like that's a par. You feel like that's a par. Good strategy there. Playing his little peeler cut, like it. Starts a little left, but you got to play your shot. So if you want to talk about things not to do, listen to what Frankie does and how he talks. He's playing really well. You just have to. That's why we like having strategy. You have to get into it and say, all right, I'm not going to worry about all this other stuff. I'm just going to worry about my strategy. It gives you clarity of what you're trying to do. And when you have clarity, then you can actually try and pull it off. And that usually makes things pretty easy. You can see Frankie hanging out over there. Trent on the par 4. He's got it up there again. He's done really well to get it up here. This is not one of those times where it's good. Now you have another chip, although this chip's not too hard, but it's just harder than it needs to be. Now we've hit a chip up there. Again, I think you could hit that one a little closer, but the first one's the problem. You got to get it on the green. Got to get it on the green. And so that would probably be an aiming issue too. But now we've got a putt. And hey, he happens to make it. The thing about this round is he's missed some short ones. He has made a couple of longer ones, but you're going to do that. You're going to do that once in a while. Again, if you kind of have good speed, they will go in once in a while. So that's not super uncommon, but you don't want to rely on that. That's definitely it. You're trying to get it to a point where those are more like par putts. Those are kind of those times you're making pars where instead of making bogeys to make these putts. All right, par 5 coming up. You can see he played it just inside the trees, let his curve go. Could he work on that? Of course, we can always work on that full swing. But again, if the goal is to try to shoot better scores as fast as possible, we have to realize when we are actually what parts of our game are currently working for what we're doing. And right now, that part of the game is working. Again, if he wants to go lower and lower, he probably would have to start working on that. But he can worry about that later as he goes. So par 5 here. Again, 3 shots. He's actually played 2 really good shots, I would say, which gets him up there, and he's going to be able to get that ball actually inside the green or on the green in his 3 shots, and he's going to have his pitch, right? Going to have his pitch, but now we get that problem again. He's going to have 2 chips here. That hurts. Is it working out there with that chip? That was really good. Missing a short putt, that hurts, where you're going to make a double. Again, if I had to pick 2 areas, I'd actually pick his short putting and chipping. I wouldn't be worried about lag putting. I'd be setting up and just 4-footers, getting myself comfortable with it, trying to get into a flow, and go from there. It's pretty clear cut. All right, so here is actually an interesting situation. This hole looks tough. Okay, so this is a hole where, based on what we know, it's 420 yards. So depending on the tee that they're playing, First off, I don't like that they play the combo tees where they're going white and blue. Like Trent needs to play the whites. With how far he hits it, this hole is too long. It's too tough. But with it being there, what I would try to do if I was him is he's got to have to fit this ball in here. I don't think he can carry this water on the right. If he can carry the water on the right, this is one where he would aim it here and let it fade and almost, try and hit it in this area over here on the right side. That would be what I would try to do. He actually looks like he hits one decent, but, we go to the next shot and he's hitting his third when we get there. So he took a penalty stroke. That's going to be obviously a killer when you're playing. It's tough, though, because he's got to try to travel the hole. Is it a situation where, again, I think if we have our 100-yard green, that's 320 yards. He could probably do that with two hybrids. So a club that he hits maybe a little bit straighter. And he might be just kind of giving up and saying that, hey, this is a par 5. Again, it's a long hole, and it's a tough hole. It's very, very narrow. So that would be one where I would probably try to get him into hey, let's go to hit hybrid. We're going to hit it out there. You're really good at it. We're just playing this as a par 5 anyway as you go. But he actually hits a fantastic shot getting it onto the green. And again, that's where it's like, hey, you had a penalty. You had a really long shot in, but you pulled it off. You can't let that opportunity go away on the greens like this. And so this is where it gets a little bit frustrating as far as this stuff goes. I think, again, he's getting pretty frustrated on it, missing a shortish putt. Okay. And that's going to be that 7 that gets him. There we go. So, that's a 4 putt there. That one really hurts going through that round. 8th hole here, par 3, flag on the left. That's not kind of his zone. I'd be aiming at the flag, letting it curve, just like he did. And actually, that's a really good shot. And that's a really good shot. That's right where he needs to be. Frankie's starting to lose it. Frankie has been talking all this back nine about how he does things and stuff. Again, I think this is a situation where if his putting's a little better, we got to get that. It's technically a chip, but we got to get that one closer as he goes. And then we put it up there. Again, a pretty far one. And then we've got, 6-7 feet. So at this point, this is where the round is starting to go. Getting some 4 putts and stuff. And those are going to hurt. They're just going to hurt. Technically, it's a 3 putt, but so as we play through the rest of this round, you can see chips there. Another 2 chips. Shortish putt. Reads the break wrong. It goes the other way, but, which has happened a couple of times. All right, so got through the round. He shot 101, okay? So when we start going at his plan and we look at what the game plan is he getting the ball up there with having a reasonable chance to kind of get the ball up and in the hole in 2 shots? That's why we put a 100-yard area around the hole. He does that a good amount of the time. Now, he had 14 successful attempts at it. That's pretty good. And then he actually, even though he didn't get successful in a couple, he still hit it on the green from outside of that 100-yard circle. So from a long game perspective, I think he's looking really good. Now, where we start looking at it is when he got inside of that 100-yard circle, he started to kind of lose it. So he had 41 total putts. He had 61 total shots from inside of 100 yards. All right. So that tells us that he had at least 20 shots from chips, okay, or short game shots. And that doesn't include the times where he hits the ball up onto the green, right? And it hits the green in regulation. So in reality, he probably had about 4 to 5 2-chip holes. So if he can work on that, that's going to be huge. There's 4 to 5 shots right off the bat that he can take away. Now, if he can work on also not 4 putting, if he takes away 4 putts, he's actually looking at taking out, how many 4 putts did he have? He had at least 2. Okay, 2 there. So if he just 3 putts those, there's 2 more. So he's at 7 shots. He's at 94, 93, right? And if he can work on then chipping it closer and not missing short putts and getting better at those short putts, he's going to see his score just completely change as he goes. So if I was working with him, we would be spending so much time on getting that short game better, because it doesn't matter how good. He's not going to hit it much better without a lot of work. So we got to go for the low-hanging fruit. He can get to a chipping green and work on that within his strategy of getting down within 3. I wouldn't even go to 100 yards. I would go 30 yards and in, and work on those shots and getting that ball chipping around the green and getting it onto the green all the time. And then when he has some of those really basic chips, thinking about maybe getting it closer where he can make that putt inside of a 4-foot circle, then actually work on the putts inside the 4-foot circle, he's going to see his score go down a ton. I think that also working on his chipping will help him improve his touch, which would help his long putts. But if you only have a limited amount of time, we can only work on maybe 1 or 2 things at a time. So for him, I'd be working on chipping inside 30 yards. I'd be working on those putts, the short putts. Make 10 in a row every single time you go out to practice. Just do it and work on that. And the more you do that, the better off he's going to be. So hopefully you like it. I would highly recommend you go check out this series of videos. They are awesome. And we will go ahead and post this. I'll link them down below as well. But if you have questions about it, please let me know. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Click that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.